Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Tony Soprano to defeat Bobby Baclieri. And he totally slipped on that throw rug, but that's beside the point. I'm here to talk about Nora Cornolle versus Melissa Dixon, or Melissa Tanya Mullins, or Melissa No Mess Mullins Dixon. I'm not shitting you. I read that somewhere. Regardless, the one fucking name I'm sure of is Melissa, and she is my pick to win this fight, but not my bet. I was planning on just staying away from this altogether, but then I saw Nora Cornali at plus 270, and that warrants a small bet on my part. I just think they got that wrong. But I do think Melissa should win. I think she's the more versatile fighter. In particular, she's much better on top. And I say that being aware that Nora Cornale has won the majority of her MMA fights on top in one way or another. Most of them are finishes on the ground, TKOs, but even a submission, and the overwhelming majority take place on the ground. But it's different with Melissa Dixon. Melissa Dixon, she seems much more intent to take the fight to the ground, and on top, she's you could just see she's got a cleaner top game, methodical passing, and some vicious ground and pound and heavy control. But the reason I'm betting against her, I put a small bet against her, is because her record, despite being very pretty at 6-0, I have a little bit of doubt. I've seen her rocked a few times in her 6 fights as a pro. This girl, Matamba something, whatever, the girl with the weird name on the regional scene, rocked her in round 2, had her staggered a bit, but she ripped her to the mat anyway. Same thing with Daria Zheleznyakova. I fucking love how I nailed that name a week or two ago, and I've retained it. See, this is a week or two later, and it's Zheleznyakova. Why don't you give it a shot? No, but Daria was getting off on her. That was Daria's fight until it wasn't, and then she ripped her to the mat, and then shucked away an armbar, and mounted her and beat her up. But against Arina Alexieva in her UFC debut, we saw her drop there in the first round. I just think there's a little something there which just gives me doubt, and I do believe Nora Cornale is a very good striker. I mean, she's a Muay Thai fighter first and foremost, but despite most of her fights taking place on the ground, most of her finishes or whatever I just said, she's definitely a problem on the feet, and if there's any doubt there, she can find it. And also, Melissa has 4 losses in her 9 amateur fights, a 5-4 record. I'm quick to dismiss amateur losses, very quick, especially when they're by decision, which all 4 of these losses are. And I've seen 2 of them. One of them is actually to a current UFC fighter, I believe, Ivana Siric Petrovic. But still, to have lost 4 times in your 9 fights, it's definitely at least a half a stain on that beautiful 6-0 record. And the 2 fights I saw, I think, were her first 2 amateur fights ever. And again, one of them being to a girl turned out to be a good fighter. The other one didn't look too bad either. But she was fading in there, and she was out grappled, at least by Ivana, and outstruck by the other girl, and had a bit of a gas tank problem. So she's not the perfect fighter. And these fights, even though they are the first 2 fights ever, they're still not that long ago. So there's just a little bit of doubt there. And that alone would be worth a small bet for Nora Cornale. But the reason I'm picking Melissa Dixon to win is because I still think Nora Cornale is susceptible to getting ripped to the mat and bullied there, as was the case against Jocelyn Edwards. Very close fight, her UFC debut. Could have gone either way, but no doubt the takeaway was her biggest problem there was wrestling. And she doesn't have great takedown defense. And I think she's got great striking, and Melissa Dixon's a very good striker too. But I think if Melissa Dixon takes her down, the fight turns into a shutout. You know, not saying she's going to smoke her and get her out of there, which she's already done to, again, UFC level fighters like a Daria Zheleznyakova, taking her out inside of a round. But I do think Melissa Dixon controls her, whatever the fuck her name is, controls her and advances the mount slowly but surely, and then the control becomes even more firm and the chance of the finish goes up. She's never been finished. Nora Cornale, her 1 loss is by decision to Jacqueline Cavalcanti, who made her UFC debut the same night Nora Cornale did. and those girls threw down. Threw down. It was a back and forth war. Each girl was rocked. Nora was rocked a few times in that fight, but she rocked Jacqueline just the same. And again, just like those amateur losses I was talking about with Melissa Dixon, this was to a UFC level fighter, Jacqueline Cavalcante, a girl that would turn out to be anyway. So it's a loss that got better with age. And since then, she's been the better woman. She's been the better woman. She is a Muay Thai striker first and foremost, but sometimes even from the clinch, she'll be looking to rip you to the mat. She's an MMA fighter at this point, and the majority of her finishes take place on the ground. I don't think she's going to be able to bully Melissa like she has with girls on the regional scene. And again, the UFC debut wasn't too encouraging as for her wrestling prowess. But I still think she's obviously very much in the striking battle, and she can be a tough girl to wrangle, Nora Cornolle. These girls are pretty much the same size. And Nora Cornolle, she's a girl that can obviously rough you up in the clinch. So it's going to be a matter of keeping her hips away from Melissa Dixon's shots and trying to rough her up. I expect her to lose this battle anyway, but I think that it's worth a small bet at plus 270 because Melissa Dixon looks a lot prettier than she should on paper, and Nora Cornolle, maybe she's got this rep as the Muay Thai striker, and she is in her mid-30s. I think she's 34 compared to Melissa Dixon being 32. But these girls are still both just getting going with their MMA careers, and I think there's a little room for surprise. So the pick is Melissa Dixon. I guess I'll say she wins a decision, but a finish certainly wouldn't surprise me because, again, I expect her to achieve mount if she achieves the takedown. But the only bet so far is Nora Cornolle, plus 270. I will look into the prop bets for Melissa Dixon because I might find some value there. If they have her odds for a finish at long odds, I think it might be worth a play. Even though Nora's never been finished, again, I expect a mount to be there for Melissa Dixon if she's on top. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.